tinted moisturizer for before, or what you would use bronzer for before, or blush, because you can even out the skin and you can add color. The one thing you're not going to be using toning for is distractions. So you're not going to use toning to cover anything, because we're not using it at high enough opacity that we will get coverage. We're just adding in color to even out the skin tone. And the way that we want to add the color is in the least opacity possible. So the goal with Demi is always using the least opacity possible so that it doesn't look like makeup, one, but also two, so that it doesn't have all the side effects that makeup can give that really a lot of people do struggle with. Some people don't, some people do. So for the ones that do, we just want Demi to basically not use at all the opacity that we would use. 3D also, it's kind of has like color correcting undertones, so you already don't use 100% opacity with 3D. That's why it's one of the reasons why it's so beautiful. So that's kind of why I think it stands out. This is like next level where you really can't even tell that it's existing. Okay, so the first thing I usually do with toning is you're just gonna look in the mirror, look at yourself, and kind of see if there are just large areas of differentiation. Most people do have them, not everyone does. This is just the first step though, because it's not the only thing we're gonna do. So a large area where it's just like a little different of a tone, what I see when I look at your beautiful face is it is just kind of like, do you guys see that it's kind of like greenish in this here? And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get OR5, and it's so crazy, like, to put blush on my forehead, what looks like blush, and I would never think that it would turn this color, like match, but it totally does. And you need almost no product, and it's just kind of evening out the skin, and you'll see how all of a sudden, the really cool thing about Demi is that you're balancing everything. So you're not trying to change her general tone. You can get more color, you can get, like, there's a ton of different looks you can get if that's where you're headed. But the idea isn't just that we don't like any of these colors, we like the colors. We just want them to balance. So you're just thinking of it as a mosaic. So we already know there's a bunch of different colors on there, and we love that, and that's what makes it look all human. But but we just want it to kind of blend and all look really healthy and even. So both sides of your face aren't always the same. This side to me, and maybe it's just because of the lighting, but it looks a little more blue. So I'm gonna go in with the 05.
And you'll know right away, like, if it's not more blue, right? Like, you'll be like, oh, I put on the wrong one.
Yeah, yes. So you're always either going cooler or warmer. When you see it, you'll either go, oh, okay, that's a little too cool, and that means it's too blue. Or, oh, okay, that's a little too warm, that's too yellow. And then you're kind of always working within the color wheel, either toward or away from blue and yellow. And so that really makes it really easy, because you start to get to where you really see it quickly, where you're like, instantly know that's cool, that's got excess blue, or that's got too much yellow. Because if you put like an orange on that looks very orangey and very, warm, then you know, oh, okay, I needed something a little more in the blue arena. Or if you just see the color as is, then you know you just put it on in too much opacity. Because we know we're doing this at like 10% opacity max. So, and that's one thing you just kind of have to get used to, because we're kind of used to using products. I think people that use 3D are used to using a lot less, but you're used to using products at a higher opacity than you will with Demi. So then the next thing I kind of see is, and this is, what you'll find is this, everyone's so similar for the most part. Just a little bit, you can see that it's a little bit lighter here, and to me it looks cooler here, so it's kind of like a cyan color to me, like a blue. And blue is funny because blue is how you know things are dark, and then if they're really, really light, they're usually blue too, so it's kind of a bookend. So you have cyan over here and then indigo over here. They're both blue, and orange is the opposite of both of them. It's kind of tricky, but it really isn't, because it's actually just nice that a lot of what you'll be doing is with orange. Which is so funny, because we've been trying to not have our makeup look orange for now. And I hate orange. Like, I used to hate orange. I love it now, but I would always just be like, orange, it's orange. We need to stay away from it. Like, I hate orange. And so now, when me and Randy kept getting more and more orange colors, we were like, who are we? Okay, so to here, because it's like that cyan, and it looks just like really like a pale color, I want to add, I'm going to add the 05, because I feel like it's a blue. And then if I were to put this on, and I would still see, and I saw like an orangish tone, then I would know, oh, this is, this is possibly, a lot of people have a little bit more maybe red here, or what appears to be red is probably purplish, and I would go with something a little more yellow. Yes?
What brush do you use to apply that?
So right now I'm using, I think this is the Blend Shape, the Blend and Shape brush. And then, but when I do the distractions, I'll be using just art brushes that I get on Amazon for like $5. Cause I'm making them, but like in the meantime, we gotta use what we have. They're not very quality, so like you would have to re-buy them. Like I've been using them, I've re-bought them like 3 times in a year, maybe 4 times. But we're gonna make them like this, but quality. We're working on it. It takes a long time. In the meantime, I'd rather people did it right than make money. But because we will make the money, we don't have to worry about that. Okay, so I'm gonna take this and just kind of like, I'm not just gonna wipe indiscriminately. Like that's kind of thing that you have to say goodbye to. That's in the past. And that's maybe one of the biggest hurdles for people is they just like wiping on makeup indiscriminately. And it feels easier, but I think the thing about Demi that you really have to get used to is that it's time spent differently. It's not more time. It can be. My biggest difference with Demi as far as time is, if I want to take a long time, I could take as long as I want. And with 3D, if I wanted to take, like if I had a long time, I wouldn't even know what to do with it. Like you just put it on, it's done. Maybe I would just do some crazy eyeshadow or something. But with Demi, if you want to take a really long time, you can. But if you want a short time, you can still get just as short as you ever did. So it's just kind of like using your time differently. And so a part of the time, especially in the beginning, is just kind of looking at your face and carefully adding product where you need to. And it seems like you want to just go, oh, I just don't want to worry about it. And then that's what actually takes more time, because then you overcorrect and then you get into a situation where you have to blend and then this is one scenario, and I'm a lazy girl. Like I like lazy tricks, I like hacks, I love that stuff. But this is one scenario where being lazy will ultimately make you work harder. Like, have you ever had your kids pretend to brush their teeth? And you're like, it's harder to pretend. You have to like go put toothpaste in your mouth, and you have to go be in there for a while, and then we have to have this conversation. And like, you think I'm stupid, but I can see the plaque. Anyway, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, yeah, you're working way harder to do it, without thought. And I think part of that is just like, we don't like some, and it makes me sad to even say this, but some people, we just don't like looking in the mirror that much, and we don't want to and that makes me so sad, but once you do, you're gonna love it. So I'm just adding it where I see kind of, and you'll see it, it's harder to see, and I know this is like, Demi's very intricate and small, and this is very big room. So I'm sorry about that, but hopefully you'll kind of see it kind of does come together really well, and evens out the skin in just the most natural way, where it's crazy because you don't really see it happening, and then it just happens.
What color did you go from, when you said the 05 would be, if you see it's too orange, like, cause I have like the same issue like with the redness where it's like, the 05 works for a little, but then I have like a whole patch where I struggle with the toning, cause I don't, like, what would you said if the 05 was too much orange and you would
Okay,
move
but look,
to-
starts to look like reddish orange.
Yeah,
Then I'm gonna go in the orange, yellow direction.
so like OY, okay. That's
Like
it.
maybe an NY,
Okay,
just because we don't have like dark ends right now, like deep saturated ends.
okay.
So like, or Ys. But yeah, a lot of times I'll use an N. Like if I'm at all irritated, then it will be more red. So I'll go more the direction of an NY. But yeah, we're so used to things being kind of like very instant gratification, and it's funny. And sorry, there will be some repetition from yesterday for the people that are in both classes. But when you watch, if you watch tutorials a lot of times with like the liquid under eye concealer, and you'll see it just like swipes on, and it's just like sweet relief. We have no more dark under eyes. And then if you were to, I started doing this just out of like curiosity. I would take a screenshot before they put it on. You get this sweet relief when they put on the big swipe, and it looks kind of like amazing and miraculous. And then they blend it in. I would take a screenshot. It is unreal how often it does not look any different once they have blended it in. Or if it does, it's just like the tone's different, but still the differentiation with the under eyes is still the same because they just swipe something over the whole thing, and it's that liquid that just blends right in, and then it's just like, oh, so we're ready. But it did give us that sweet relief for a quick second. And this is kind of like the opposite. Like you don't really see it going on, and you're like, are we doing something? And then all of a sudden it comes together, and it's kind of amazing. I was doing a girl, and I could tell she had dark enough skin to where you know she's been to makeup artists that they don't know how to work with it, and don't know how to deal with, and don't have like the right products. People that have unique skin tones usually will be like warning you, you know, if you guys felt that, like, I don't know if you're gonna have my colors. But so I could tell she was like looking at my palette and like looking at my little brush, and she's like, what is she doing? Poor thing. And then all of a sudden, she was just on her phone, you know, and then all of a sudden she looked up and she was like, she actually startled. She was like, how did you do that? With those? Like, what is happening? So it does kind of come together all at once. Okay, so I'm gonna do your blush, and then we'll bring up someone else to do different things. Is that okay?
I could have sat here and did one slide.
So then with blush, it's really quite simple because it's basically just, the spectrum of blush is basically from purples to orangish pinks. And so you're just kind of, depending on the look you want, but if you just want a natural looking flush and the most bang for your buck, you kind of figure out, is this a warm pink or is this a cool pink? And if it's warm, it's got more yellow in it, and if it's cool, it's got more blue in it, and then you use the opposite. Or a lot of times if they have a lot, or if you or whoever you're doing it on has a lot of natural blush, you're just gonna kind of do a little spot treating and just add blush, because usually people that have a natural blush will have it, but it may be not so even. So you just want to add kind of like a little quilting where it isn't. And what you want to do is not also do it where it is, because then you get back to that where you're overcorrecting. You're doubling up that, so now it's still not going to look even, because if you add where it already is red, you can see that would work. So that's what I'm going to do with you. I'm just using R, I think this is R5, and just going, because she already has that beautiful natural blush, and so I'm just kind of matching it up where it isn't.
Cara, would you do toning and then sculpting and then blush, or would you like take one toning or sculpting, one or the other?
So I call like eyeshadow, when you do eyeshadow with Demi and nose contouring and all that, I would call, like even lips, I would call sculpting. So I still always, I'm if I'm gonna do like full makeup, I will always do sculpting. But I have found that because you're not adding really any layers of makeup, the natural sculpt, it has such a easier time to shine. And a lot of people, especially I think early adopters for Demi, you're gonna say the word contour or sculpt and they're gonna be like, I'm out, thank you, no, thank you. So it is nice to kind of feed them into just like toning and distractions. But for me, I do all three usually, yeah. And sometimes like my sculpting will take place of what would maybe be toning, just because I know what, you know, in that area I can just do the one and not do layers. So that's basically. So a lot of like young girls and young people, you can just do toning too, and that just teach them toning, and that's all they really need. They don't have a lot of distractions, and great, wonderful goal, and that's basically you. So thank you. Okay, we have a nominee for.
Brown girl coming.